Hi everyone and welcome to creating a Twitter clone using Ruby on Rails version 8. At the end of this course, you will have the knowledge on how to create an application like Twitter using Rails. This course is suitable for both PC and Mac users, so you don't have to worry about that. We are using Rails 8 in this course, which has some major advantages to all the previous versions. The first one is Redis-free caching. Rails 8 has completely reimagined how caching works. You no longer need Redis for caching by default, thanks to the new built-in file-based caching system. It's faster, simpler to configure, and reduces deployment costs. This change makes Rails apps that would need Redis cheaper to deploy, which is extremely important. The next major change is the Kamal deployment tool. Rails 8 introduces Kamal, a sleek and modern deployment tool that makes shipping your app to production ridiculously easy. Whether you're deploying to cloud providers, Docker containers, or bare metal servers, Kamal handles it all with a few simple commands. We'll be using Kamal to deploy our Twitter clone at the end of the course. And the third major change is the built-in authentication generator. Say goodbye to setting up device or rolling your own authentication from scratch. Rails 8 comes with a new built-in authentication generator. We'll use it to set up user accounts and login logout functionality. So let's get started and install Ruby on Rails 8. Hello everyone and welcome. The first thing that we're going to do is actually install Ruby on Rails. If you already have it installed, then you can skip this part, but yeah, we're going to install it. So the first thing we're going to do is search up turn Windows features on or off. Do you see the one called virtual machine platform? We're going to turn that one on. Then we're also going to need to turn on two more ones, and that is called Windows subsystem for Linux, and it's also called Windows hypervisor platform. These are certain prerequisites that we need to actually install Ruby on Rails on Windows. We're going to be doing it via Linux, so we're actually going to install a subsystem for Linux on Windows, and it's going to take a few gigabytes, so make sure you have the space. And once you have these turned on, it's going to require us to restart our computer, so go ahead and restart your computer. And as you can see now, it says to restart the computer, so restart. Okay, so now that you've restarted your computer, go to the Microsoft Store, and then inside of here, we're just going to install something called Windows Terminal, which is what I'm going to be using in the course. So make sure you have Windows Terminal installed. It's a really good terminal, and install that. Once you have that done, go and install VS Code. VS Code also stands for Visual Studio Code, and search up Visual Studio Code, and then just go on here and then say download for Windows, and as you can see, it's going to download now, and then open it up and set it up, and that's it. Next, let's go back to the Microsoft Store, and then inside of here, we're going to search up Ubuntu. This is the version of Linux that we're going to run, and inside of here, we're going to click on the one that says the 2022.04.5 LTS. LTS stands for long-term support, so make sure to get this one. Hit install. It's going to install. It's going to take like about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, depending on your Wi-Fi. Once that is installed, you're going to have to search up Ubuntu, and then you're going to get given it a terminal, and then there's going to be some setup instructions here. Should only take a few seconds. You won't need me to guide you. Okay, so once you have Ubuntu installed, go ahead and open up your Windows terminal. We're going to be using a guide from Digitalocean to install Rails. As you can see, I have it on the right. This will be linked in the description of the video. So we're going to go down here, and we're going to copy these commands in here. So RBENV is the Ruby version package manager, so we're going to need to install that first. So go ahead and run sudo apt update. It's going to ask me for my password. Now that that's done, we're going to go ahead and then install the dependencies required for Ruby. As you can see, that's done. Run the next command. Now we need to add RBNV to our path, so run that command. Now I'm just going to hit clear so you can see echo eval, and then we're going to get source. And after running all of these commands, now we can actually run type RBENV, and we should see this output. And now we're actually going to install Ruby. So go ahead and run the next command, which is RBENV install-L. As you can see, I've already got everything installed, so nothing's going to happen. And now to actually install Ruby, we're going to run RBENV install 3.4.1. Now that we have actually installed Ruby, we're going to go ahead and set it as the default version. To do that, run the command RBENV global, and then the version, so 3.4.1. Now we can run ruby-v, and now we can see that Ruby has successfully been installed on our WSL. Next, we're going to install bundler. So to do that, scroll down the tutorial, and we're going to run our first command, echo gem no document, run that, and then run gem install bundler. And then next, we're actually going to install Ruby on Rails. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and run gem install Rails. This is going to automatically install the newest version of Rails. If we want to specify a version, then we can just run -v and then the version, but we want to run the newest, so hit enter. And as you can see, now it's installing Rails. It looks like it has been installed, and now we have to run RBENV rehash just to allow the commands to actually enter. So I'm just going to full screen, hit clear, and then we're just going to bump it up, and we're going to do first of all do ls, and it's going to be beginner and Rails. So I'm just going to go into Rails, so cd Rails, and then we're going to do Rails new Twitter clone. Rails new stands for, well, that creates a new application, and we're going to call it Twitter clone. So hit enter. If we hit ls, then we can go into Twitter clone, so cd Twitter clone. And now if we do code dot, it should open it up in Visual Studio Code. As you can see, it's actually installing VS Code Server for Linux, so we're going to have to install that. Now it's opening up Visual Studio Code, and as you can see, we have our application here. Now that we have our application, I know that Rails was installed correctly. I'll go ahead and show you what all of these files do. While I cannot show you how to directly install it on macOS, I can show you this great article by GoRails. Now on this article, it has all of the macOS variants and versions, so you can just select your one and then follow the steps, and then you will have Rails installed. If that is too much trouble, you can also just look at a YouTube tutorial. I'm sure there are many, and I might link one in the description too. First, you just need to install Homebrew, then install Ruby, then you're going to be using a Ruby version manager called Mize, etc, etc. It's not that difficult, and it should only take about 30 minutes, as this guide says. So if you're on macOS, install Rails using this article set up in the description, create a new application called Twitter Clone, and then you'll be up to scratch with the Windows tutorial. Okay, so now to get started and to put our server in the browser so we can actually view our application, we need to go to the terminal. So open up your terminal and then go to the directory which your Rails app is. So I'm in cd Rails, then in Rails I called it cd Twitter clone, so do cd Twitter clone. CD stands for change directory. Once you're in that folder, you can actually run the command called rails s, which starts the server. And then if we follow the link called this one, http 127.0.0.1, if we follow that one, or if we control left click on it, it should open it up in the browser. And as you can see, that means everything is working, and that's the Rails home screen. So Rails version 8 and Rack version 3.1.8 and Ruby version 3.4.1. Now that we have established that, I'm just going to give you an overview of all of these files and folders in the Rails application. So the app folder is the heart of the application where the model view controller logic resides. The models folder handles business logic and database interactions. The controllers folder processes requests and manages application logic. And then the views folder has templates for rendering the user interface. This is where you have your html.erb files, which are essentially HTML files that allow Ruby code inside of them. Then you've got the config folder. The config folder manages the application configuration. The routes.rb file is extremely important. It defines URL routes and their corresponding controller actions. As I mentioned, the controllers are in the app folder. The database.yml configures database connections. And then if we go to environments, development.rb, this one has environment specific settings. So if you're in development or production or test, it has different settings. The third most important folder is the DB folder. This handles the database structure and data. We'll get into that more later. Then the fourth most important one is called the gem file, and this lists the Ruby gems or the libraries the application actually depends on. So example, we have a gem Rails, and Rails is actually a gem itself, even though it's a framework. So all of these gems are in Ruby Gems, which is an online website where you can download the gems. And then finally, the log folder has all of the logs. So if you go to development.log, as you can see, we have all of the logs in the application since it has been born, I guess you could say. So that's just what's in the server now. But let's say you stop the server, turn off your PC and restart, you can go back to the logs and see what went wrong. So that's an overview of the files and folders in Ruby on Rails. Okay, so we're ready to rock and roll, and the first thing that we're going to do is create a scaffold. If you've never heard of that, then pay attention because this is important. What we're going to do is head to the terminal, and inside of here we're going to stop the server using Control-C. Then what we're going to do is press clear or hit type clear, and then that's going to clear the terminal. Now inside of here we're going to run a command, and the command is going to generate a bunch of files inside of all these folders. It's going to create a few folders inside of these folders, and it's going to really help us. So a scaffold is essentially a collection of files that's going to allow us to create, read, update, and destroy a model. Now you'll see what I mean after we actually create it, if you've never created one before. So I'm just going to control and scroll wheel to zoom in and zoom out of the terminal. Now inside of the terminal, I'm going to do Rails G scaffold, and we're going to call it post, and we're going to say title text user underscore ID integer. It's extremely important that you have it the way that I have it here. I'll just bump it up so you can see it. Rails G scaffold, post title, and I actually made a mistake, so make sure you have it like this so that you can see. Post title text user ID integer. It has to be exactly the same as I have here so that it doesn't have an error. Hit enter on that command and it's going to create a scaffold. See, before we run Rails DB migrate, we're just going to see what that scaffold actually created. If we go to app views, we can see there's a new folder here called posts. It also created controllers and also created a model. Now you'll notice that it created the view, the models on the controller, and that's MVC. MVC is the type of architecture that Rails is, and we'll talk about a little bit more about that in a second. So now that we've done that, we're going to run another command. This command is called Rails DB migrate. This is going to migrate this model to the database and change the schema.rb. The schema.rb is the representation of the database. So go to db schema.rb, and here we have the representation of the database. This is what the database looks like. It's called a schema.rb. RB is the Ruby because it's a Ruby file, and schema is what they call it in all programming. So now that we've done that, what we're going to do is hit Rails S again. And if we refresh our application, even though we ran that Rails G scaffold command, G stands for generate, by the way, even though we ran that, nothing's happened to our application. So let's go ahead and let's go to the config. roots.rb file, and inside of here, we're going to uncomment this line, root post hashtag index. Make sure you have to have it exactly like this, root post hashtag index. Everything in programming kind of has to be exactly as it is. It has to be exactly syntactically correct. So once we do that, and then we refresh the page, we should have a completely new application, and I'll just show you what it looks like. As you can see, it says post, new post, and if you haven't seen this before, it's going to be kind of wild because you can create a new post very quickly and you can edit it and delete it and all this good stuff. And the good thing about this is that even if we stop the server, turn off our PC, this post is still going to be there. Obviously, if I didn't delete it or destroy it, it would have still been there. But I'm just going to show you, like, this post is saved to the database, so that's the cool thing about this. Now you can play around with that, but I don't really like how this looks because I think it's a little bit ugly. So what we're going to do is add a CSS framework to this application, and it's going to be called holiday.css. So navigate to the website called holidaycss.js.org, and inside of here, there's a link rel style sheet, href to this link. And if we add this link to our application, more specifically to our application.html.drb, which is a file I'll show you now, then our application is going to look a lot better. So I'll just show instead of talk. So app, views, layouts, application.html.drb. And inside of here, we want to add it inside of the head tag. So if I just bump that out of it, then we want to add it inside of the head tag. So you just copy and paste this link inside of the head tag. And then if you save the file and then refresh, the application is obviously looking a little bit better. Now, notice how it's changed to dark mode. The font sizes have changed. Everything kind of looks better. Well, if you don't like it that way, then you can obviously change it back, or you can just choose a different CSS library by going to the website called cssbed.com. So cssbed.com kind of has a lot of different CSS libraries, and these CSS libraries are free, and you can just click on each one, see how it looks. So that's holiday, and then we can go to bamboo. As you can see, it looks different. AWSM, that's just a side note, by the way. It's just something cool that I like to tell you about. So those are all the different CSS libraries, right? So I'm going to X out of that because I like this one called Holiday. And so that's the CSS library. Our app is looking good. So this is really good. We can now create a post, and that's really cool. We don't know who the user is because we haven't added user authentication. And one thing that I'd like to do is I'd like to go to VS Code. If I can just fix this, I'd like to go to VS Code. We'll go to posts_post.html.drb. And inside of this file, we're just going to, if I just bump this up, we're going to get rid of title, because we don't need that, and we're going to get rid of user because we obviously know that that's the title, and we know that we're not obviously going to show a user ID. In the future, we might add the user name or username. So yeah, but right now we don't have that, so that's okay. Right, so guys, the next step on my agenda is to change our database from SQLite to Postgresql. Now, SQLite is the database that all Rails applications use by default, but if I go to DB, and then if I go to database, or if I go to config, and then I go to database.yml, we can see that here it says the adapter is SQLite. Now, SQLite is a great database, however, it's not suitable for production. And I'm going to switch to Postgresql because that's what we're going to use to deploy with Kamal. And so we need to switch to Postgresql for that to actually work. So, two different things that you need to know is that SQLite is used for development and Postgresql is generally used for production. Postgresql has greater capabilities and it's a larger database. If you don't know what I'm saying this Postgresql, if you've never heard of it before. Postgresql, right here. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is stop the server. I'm going to use the Windows key and the arrow buttons to put it over there so you can see it. Then the first command we're going to run is called railsdb:system:change, and then it's going to be 2 equals Postgresql. Now this is kind of a simpler way of changing our system to Postgresql, and it's just going to change this database.yml file. If I just make this full screen so you can see it a little bit better. So it'll change the adapter to Postgresql, and it will do some other things as well in the other configuration files. So hit enter on that command. We are going to overwrite, so hit Y, and now it's done. So as you can see, it added the gem, it forced database.yml file to change, and it added some stuff to the Docker file. Next, we need to install Postgresql on our Linux subsystem. So to do that, we're going to hit clear just so we can clear it and we can make it clear. And we're first going to run the command sudo apt update. This command updates everything on our Linux subsystem for Windows, and as you can see now it is done and 14 packages have been upgraded, it says. Next, we're actually going to install Postgres, and this might take a while if you don't have it already, so be prepared. So the command is sudo apt install postgresql-contrib. So hit enter on that command. And as you can see, it says Postgresql is already the newest version. And that's because I already have Postgres on this machine, but for you, it will just install it and it might take a few seconds. So the next command is actually going to ensure that the service of Postgres is started on the machine. So the next command is sudo system ctl start, of course, because we're going to start it, postgresql.service. So it's all fairly simple to understand. I think we get it, right? So hit enter on that command, and now it's started. So now that Postgres is installed, we need to connect Ruby on Rails to Postgres. First of all, you need to know that any Ruby on Rails app tries to connect to Postgres using a role. By default, this role is the main user of your PC. So in my case, it would be mal, M-A-L, this word right here, mal. Now when Postgres is installed, it automatically creates a role called Postgres, but we need to create a role called mal, or whatever you called your PC. So let's go ahead and do that. So in our terminal, we're going to hit clear again, just to make it clear. So we're going to run the Postgres commands now. So sudo -i-u Postgres. Hit enter. And as you can see, now we're actually logged in as the role or the user called Postgres. Because with Postgres, there are many different users, kind of like a Windows PC, you can have different users, but this is just a database. And so now we're going to create a user called the original user of our PC. Now we're going to create a user called mal. And that way Ruby on Rails will automatically connect because it is expecting our role to be called mal. So now we are logged in as the default Postgres user, and we can create a new role called mal in my case, so that Rails can connect to Postgres easily. So we're going to run the command create user --interactive. So as you can see, this script prompts us with some choices. We have to enter the name of the role to add, as of course it's in my case going to be mal, but for you it's most likely definitely not going to be mal. So make sure to check up here what it is, and then you have to put this one in here pretty much. So in your case, it'll be whatever you named your PC. If you haven't named your PC, it might be something different. The name of the role must be your default username on your PC. In my case, mal, your username will probably not be mal. Hit enter, and as you can see, it says, shall the new role be a super user? And we're going to say yes, because it must be a super user to create databases. So hit yes, type yes. Now it says the error creation of the role mal already exists. So that means that mal already exists and I'm fine, but you need to actually create that role. And if it says already exists, then you're good too. Now that we've done that, we're going to actually hit exit, and then we're going to run the command called rails db create. And if that works, then we've done everything successfully. Now it says could not find gem PG in locally installed gems. This is a common error we'll run into. We don't have the gem. So just run bundle install, which we forgot to run earlier after we ran the Rails DB system change. So now that we've installed Postgres, we're going to run Rails DB create again, and it's going to create a DB with Postgres, which is a better, not more efficient, but better database, right? So Rails DB create. And as you can see, we have successfully created the database, which means we have successfully switched to Postgresql. There's just one more thing I forgot to mention. When you run your app again and you run Rails S, you're going to need to run the pending migrations. If you just hit this button, or if you go to your terminal and you stop the server and then run Rails db migrate, then this error will go away and the migrations will be resolved. So run pending migrations. As you can see, it says could not find post with ID 2. That's because I'm looking at a post in the URL. So I'll just go to /posts, and all of our posts are gone, but that's okay. We can just create them again. And so yeah, if you run into that migration error, just run the pending migrations and then it'll go away. Now, for the Mac users, we have a tutorial here by Digitalocean. Digitalocean has really good tutorials, and it says how to use Postgresql with the Ruby on Rails application on macOS. It's from 2019, but it'll still work, so don't worry. The best part about Digitalocean is that you can actually change and use your specific version of macOS. So it's going to be more or less the same steps. You're going to install Postgres. Then here's something different. You have to include it in your path variable so you can access it via command line tools. Then you have to apply the changes, and then you have to start the service as we did in Linux subsystem. Then the same thing we did, create a username, log in. This tutorial will be linked in the description, so make sure to follow it. Get Postgres on your machine. You can also look at YouTube videos, which we'll have in the description too. I can't show you how to do it on a Mac because I don't have one available to me, but I can at least show you the best tutorials so that you can easily do it without hassle. So check the description and you'll find all the best tutorials. Now the next main thing that we have on the agenda is to create and add user authentication. But before we do that, I just want to talk a little bit about the posts and how it all works, because I think I need to give you a good understanding if you haven't got one already. If you have got one, this will be a good refresher. So it's going to be pretty basic. So if we go to app, views, posts, index.html.erb, this is the main page. This is this page right here. You know, like HTML, this is that page, but it has Ruby code in it because it's that .html.erb. Now, the reason that we're on this page when we start up the server and we go to the URL, like even when we're going to this page, that's still this page. /posts and this page and the root URL is the same thing. So the reason that we go to this page when we start up the server and we go to the application is because if we go to roots and I do Control P to go to roots, or you can just go to config and then roots.rb, and that's because we said root post hashtag index. Now this is extremely important. This is the fundamental way of how Rails works. So root post hashtag index means go to the views post index and render that one as the root file. Something else that's a little bit unrelated is that controllers, post controller index is linked to this index file. So that means that any variable that we have in index, in the index method it's called, is linked to this index file here. Now the post controller, all of these methods, they're usually, not all the time, but they usually are by default their own separate pages. So for example, in new, there's a new page. If we go to post controller and then there's show, there's also a show page. I just want you to know that these methods and these pages, these different files are linked. Okay, so when we go to new and let's say we want to add a variable then we'd like pass it into new, and then that's how that would work. And we display it on this page. So I just want you to understand also something else is that when we go to new post, it is rendering, it's on the index, right? If we go back, we're on the index, we click new post. So that's this link to right here. So link to, and then the text, and then new post path. I'll teach you something else now in a second, but let's say we go to new post, and then as you can see, there's a form rendered here. Now, if we go to new, it says render form post at post. Now, where actually is this form? What actually is it? Well, this is called a partial, and a partial is essentially a small amount of code, a bundle that you can just have somewhere else. And it's actually in this post folder, and that's why it just says form. As you can see, it says _form.html.erb, and in here we have all the actual code. It says form.text area title, form.label, all that good stuff. So this is where the form actually is. This is an actual page that we can go to, right? We're on this page right now, and it renders this other bit of code onto the page. Now, when we actually go to create a post, so I'll just say this is the first post, and we create the post, it goes to the show page, right? And inside of the show page, we have another partial. It says render at post. So this is I'm just giving you an overview of how this actually works. So render at post, again, this is the same thing as before. Same thing as the form, it's called a partial. And if we go to _post.html.erb, this is where the post code actually is. So if I wanted to change this title to be in bold, I would wrap it in strong. So you might actually put it in there. And as you can see now, it's bold, right? Because this is essentially just this line of text, because that's the whole post. But if there was more, like if we had a user ID or a description, then that would be there too. Now, something else that's also quite important, if I just bump this up so you can see, these Ruby signs, this is the Ruby sign, right? So it goes less than bracket, and then percentage sign, and then percentage sign, and then greater than bracket. Now, if you want to render something onto the page, or if you want to show it onto the page, then you have to have an equal sign, okay? So you have to have an equal sign after the first percentage sign. So make sure to understand this, because that means that it's Ruby code. And if you have an equal sign, that means that it's shown on the page. If you don't have an equal sign, then that means that it's not shown on the page. And if you have a hashtag, then that means that it's a comment. So yeah, that's a brief overview of how this whole thing works. And this is really important. You have to understand all of this, mainly because you need to, if you want to actually style anything and make it look a little bit better, then you need to understand where things are, right? So if we wanted to change the button on this button right here, this is the post, and we want to change the color, then we'd have to go to the index, and right here, this is the link. We'd have style, and this is the syntax. We'd have comma, style, and then colon, and then we just change the color, and we could say color gold. Should work. And now you can see it's gold, right? Now we can take this one step further, and I want to give you a better understanding by creating a new page on the application. The application is going to have a page called home page. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to create we're going to go to the terminal, right? So go to the terminal, hit clear, and inside of here, what we're going to do is we're going to say Rails G controller. We will call it pages, and we'll just have one page called home for now. You could also add like an about page, contact page, pricing page, whatever. So I'm just doing this for the purpose of showing you. Hit enter on that command, and that's going to create a new controller, a new folder, and a root. So look, if we go to post controller pages controller, this is a new controller. And then as you can see in the views, it created a pages folder. And as you can see in the roots, it created a get pages/home. So this is the root that we need. Now that we have our new page in the code, we want to actually go to it in the browser. So how do we do that? Well, let's first of all run Rails S, so that, because like if we didn't run Rails S, we'd get this error. I'm not sure if you noticed, but if we didn't run Rails S, we wouldn't be able to connect. So we need to run Rails S. So run Rails S. And then how do we actually go to this page? Well, if we go to pages/home, it should actually work. And I did pages.home, pages/home does actually work. So that's pretty cool. We now have a new page on our application and we can go there. But what if we want to change the URL of this page to be the home page, right? Then what we could do is we could go to roots.rb. So if I just show you where it is, again, root config is in roots, or roots is in config and roots.rb. Or you can do Control P, search for it, and it's in roots.rb. Then inside of here, all we have to do is say root, and we can change this to pages#home. Now the reason that works is because it goes and finds the controller that has the name of pages, and then it goes to the home method. So I'll say that once again. It finds the controller that has the name pages, and it goes to the home method. This is extremely important. So anytime you see a hashtag, the word after the hashtag is the name of the method it's going to. If we look at this, get pages/home, that's something different. It's going to the view. If we go to app controllers, pages controller, as you can see, this is called the pages controller, and it has a method called home. So that's why this all works. It's all interconnected. And so now if we save that roots.rb file, if I just go back to it, I think I forgot to save, then our root of the application should actually be this page. As you can see, it is. So now if we want to change this page, all we have to do is just go to views, posts, or pages, home, and then we just change this, all this HTML. We can say, this is the home of the app. As you can see, this is the home of the app. We can just add a full stop, and yeah, so that's how this works. Now, one thing that I do want to show you is this command. So it's called Rails roots. And this gives us all of the roots in the application. And there's so much stuff here that you have to look at, but the real important parts are the following. So look, prefix and verb, and then the URI pattern, and over here as well. So the controller action. So as you can see, it says new post, right? So the new post, and it says post #new. So new post goes to post #new. So if we want to create a link to post #new, we want to go to create a new post, then we would say new post _ path. And if we go to VS Code, and then we go to the posts index, as you can see, it says new post path. So that's how that kind of works. So if we take another example, if we go to the show page, and then we go look at this link, edit this post, go to edit this post, edit post path, and then we also take in the variable @post. And if we look at the roots, edit post, and then it goes to post #edit, so that's perfect. And then after all of these prefixes, you add an _path, and that's how you get the root. So it's kind of like a mathematical equation. So if we want to go to the posts index page from the home page, how would we do that? Well, we'd have to create a link, but what would be in the link? Given our previous example, can you work it out? Well, the answer is it's going to be posts _path. So I'll show you now. So if we go to VS Code, and then if we go to pages home, inside of here, we're going to create a new link. We're going to say link to, we'll say posts. We'll just say posts _path. That's it. So that should create a new link to the posts. So as you can see, if I refresh, and I have to start the server, forgot to start the server. So I'll do clear and then bump it up and run Rails S. Go back to this. As you can see now, I can go to posts, and now I'm on the post page. Let's say we want to go back to the home page. How would we do that? Well, we go to the posts. So we go to the post index, and then inside of here, what we do is create a new link. Where do we want the link? Well, we can have the link. We can just have the link below this new post. So I'm going to copy and paste this new post. And then inside of here, we're going to change this to, we can change it to back to home for now, because we only have 2 pages. And then we can say home or pages, but actually we can say root _path. So here we can say root _path because we set it as the root in config.roots, config/roots. And now if we refresh, we should have the root to homepage, and we can go there. And now we have some functionality in our application using Rails, right? I might just add a BR tag. So that's all I wanted to show you. Now you have a brief overview of how things actually work in Rails. You know that these files are connected to the controllers. You know a little bit more about routes and how to create links, and it's extremely important. Okay guys, the next step on our agenda is to introduce a basic authentication generator in our application. Well, it's not going to be that basic. We are going to add OAuth. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about this Rails 8 new authentication generator. So this is the first Rails authentication generator that we have. It comes out of the box with Rails 8, and you can simply add some authentication using a few simple commands. For example, just with this one command, Rails generate authentication, on a fresh app, I was able to get this working, and all you have to do is enter in, well, in the Rails console. If I show you now, if I go to my terminal, I created a new user, so I went Rails C, and then I went user.create email address, you@example.com, password, test password 123. So I'll just create a new user right now. So test password and gmail.com. And then if I go exit and Rails S, I can log in with this email. So you@gmail.com, and test password, right? And I can sign in. And that's pretty cool, right? You can log in immediately. However, out of the box, it only includes the bare minimum, which is login, and features like email confirmation, password resets, and account locking are definitely not included. If we need more advanced features, which we do, like OAuth, which is like sign in with Google, then it doesn't come with that, and we're going to have to manually build it ourselves, which is going to be a pain. So because this authentication generator is so new and not yet finished, in fact, it's not even really released yet, in this tutorial, we're not going to be using it, we're going to be using Devise instead. The main reasons we're going to use Devise instead of the Rails generator are its comprehensive features, customization, proven security, and community and documentation, so that if you get stuck, we can easily search something up. So while the new Rails generator could be excellent for small, simple applications, it falls short for projects with more advanced or specific authentication needs. So for production-ready applications requiring flexibility and scalability quickly, Devise remains the gold standard. Okay, so because we're going to use Devise, open up a new tab and go to rubygems.org. Once you're on this website, we're going to search up Devise, and then as you can see, it's the first option with 217 million downloads. It's a flexible authentication solution for Rails. So it's going to allow us to add user authentication to our application very quickly and easily. So in the gem, we're going to add this to the gem file. So copy this here, gem Devise. So go to VS Code, go to the gem file. This is the first gem we've added. So just copy and paste it anywhere in here, gem Devise, and then run bundle install. So gems are like packages, so I'll stop the server and run bundle install. This will allow us to actually use what is inside of Devise. All of the methods, everything good. So it's just going to actually install the gem. Next up, we're going to go to the homepage, which has all of the documentation on GitHub. Go to this website, scroll down, and then we're going to run the generator. So let's run the generator. So go to the terminal, run the generator. I'll just make sure you can see it. So Rails generate Devise install, hit enter. Now there are 4 different things that we have to do, 4 different commands. So we have to add this to our VS Code developments.rb. So it says ensure you have defined default URL options in your environment files. Default URL options. Here is an example of default URL options appropriate for development environment. So yeah, let's go ahead and add this to development.rb. You don't have to worry about this, it's not that important for now. So go to config environments development.rb, add this in here, save the file, that's it. Next step. Now ensure you have defined root URL to something in your config routes.rb, for example, root to home #index. Now if you noticed, if we go to routes.rb, we have actually done that. So it says root pages #home, #home. So yeah, that's done. Now it says ensure you have flash messages installed. So we can just add these flash messages, and that way it will say like you have signed up successfully, or you have been, you've logged in, and that's cool. So we're going to go app, views, layouts, application.html.erb, and in this file, we're going to add it above the yield tag. Then we're going to go back to the terminal, and inside of here, we're going to say you can copy Devise views to your app by running Rails G Devise views. Let's go ahead and run those views, run that command. So Rails G Devise :views. So what this is going to do is create all the views. Now the views is just a folder in views, and as you can see now we have a new folder called Devise. And this is why that many small, like really small applications don't want to use Devise, because it's such a heavy, large gem. And that's why they're creating the authentication solution. But as I said, we're not going to use the authentication solution in this video because it does not have all the features that we need. But at least now you know about it, and in the future it's going to become a viable option and you'll be able to use it. Okay, so now let's go back to the browser, and inside of here we're going to generate a model. So let's go ahead and generate a model for Devise. So we're going to run Rails G-Devise model. So we're going to run Rails G-Devise, and it's not going to be called model, we're going to call it user. So run Rails G-Devise user. So Rails G-Devise user, and then clear. And as you can see, that created a user model. So if we go to models, now we have a user model, so that's cool. And then if we go to DB, migrate, and then the newest one, we have a user's migration. So now if we run Rails DB migrate, this is going to migrate to the database. So if we go to the schema.rb now, before we run that command, then we can see that it looks like this. But after we run this command, we're going to have a new table in here, and it's called users, and as you can see it's there, and it says create table users added here. So that's perfect. Now that that's done, we're going to Rails S, go back to our application and see what happens. So this is looking good, but the first thing that we need to do is make it so that we cannot create a new post without signing in, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go to the controllers, post controller, and inside of here, we're going to say before underscore action, and we're going to say authenticate underscore user, and we're going to say only percentage I, and we're going to say new, edit, create, and destroy. So if we do all that, now we should not be able to create a post without signing in. So if I do new post, as you can see, it says you need to log in and sign up before continuing. And this is all new code that was added to Devise. And that's why I like Devise. It's very, very quick. And now if we actually sign up and create a new account, we're going to add an account. So I'm going to say malikirails@gmail.com, password of 123456, 123456, sign up. And as you can see, now we're signed up and we can create a new post. So that works, and that's perfect. Now we might just create a little nav bar here that says we can sign out, sign in, or sign up, or log in. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go to the VS Code, and inside of here, we're going to create a new file inside of layouts, and we're going to say underscore navbar.html.erb. And then inside of here, we're going to create some links that is going to allow us to actually log in, sign up, or log out on the navbar, right? So we're going to go to, first, to actually render this partial, we're going to go to application.html.erb, and then above this, we're going to say render partial, we're going to say navbar. And then now if we actually add some content inside of the navbar, we can say this is the navbar, and just make sure to add the layout/navbar in before navbar, so layout/navbar, because we actually need to direct it to the right place, so do layout/navbar. Then if we refresh, as you can see, it says this is the navbar. So now we just need to add some links. So the first thing we're going to say is a link to sign out, right? So we're going to do link underscore to, we're going to say sign out. And then if we go to the Rails roots, we can find the root, but I know the root. So we're going to say destroy underscore user underscore session underscore path. Then after that, we're going to say data colon turbo underscore method, and then colon delete, and that should do the job. So now if we go to the actual homepage and we sign out, as you can see, it says signed out successfully. But the sign out link is still showing, so we're going to add an authentication link to stop that. So above this, we're going to say, we're just going to if underscore current user, then we can actually not show the sign out link. So if current user means if the user is logged in. So if the user is logged in, we're going to show the sign out link. And if we're not logged in, then we're going to show the sign up link or sign in link. So we're going to say link underscore to, actually we'll just copy this to make it faster. So copy that twice, and we can get rid of data turbo method delete on both of them. And then inside of here, we're going to say new user session and new user registration. Then we'll just change this. So we're going to say sign this up and sign in. We have our 3 links, and let's see if it works. As you can see, now we have our links. And if I sign in using the same email I used earlier, so I had malikirails@gmail.com, then I can sign in, remember me, log in, and as you can see, I'm signed in, and then we can sign out. Okay, so our user authentication using Devise is working, and that's excellent. Okay, so guys, the next thing on the agenda is to add action text to our posts. So when we go to create a new post, there's going to be a special rich text here so that we can make our text bold, we can make it italic, we can attach images. So let's go ahead and do that. It's going to be really useful, and obviously it's a feature of Twitter, so we need to go ahead and do that. So the first thing that we're going to do is stop the server, and then inside of here, we're going to run a command. If I just run clear, we're going to run a command called Rails action underscore, if I just make this full screen so you can see, Rails action underscore text install. Action text is the gem that we're going to be doing this with. So hit enter on that command, then run Rails db migrate. After that, we're going to put it back in its position, and we can run Rails S again. So run Rails S, and then let's have a look at the schema.rb and see what that actually created. So go to db schema.rb, and as you can see inside here, we have this action text, rich text, so name, body, all that, active storage attachments, active storage blobs. And so yeah, it created these 4 different tables. With these tables, we're going to be able to add action text to our application. So after that, go to your model. So go to posts, so go to app models post.rb, and inside of here, what we're going to do is we're going to say has underscore rich underscore text, and then we're going to say title because that's the attribute we want to apply the has-rich text function on. After that, we're going to go to the views, we're going to go to the posts, and we're going to go to the form. And inside of here, we're going to look at the form.text area title. And inside of here, we're just going to change this to rich_text area. So now that we've done that, we're going to refresh the page. And as you can see, our text area has completely changed. We have the ability to actually make our text bold. If I just, this is the first action text post. We now can actually make it bold, which is pretty cool. We can make it italic, and I don't even know what that one is. We can cross it out, and then we can enter a URL, so that's pretty cool. We can make it bigger, lots of different options just from these 3 lines of code. And now let's actually start trying to attach an image and see if the image attaching is working. So as you can see, you can attach an image and it gives you a preview, which is really, really good. It even shows you the size of the image, the name of the image, and you can just press X on it and it'll get rid of it. So let me attach another image. This one is fine. And then let me actually create the post. As you can see, the post is actually created and the image is here. So with just 3 lines of code, we were able to make this work. If it's not working for you, it's probably something to do with Ruby Vips or Minimagic. These 2 are gems that you need to install, and they are gems that you need to install on your system. I recommend that you use Minimagic, and you can do this by doing gem install Minimagic, mini_magic. And as you can see, successfully installed Minimagic, and you also have to have it installed on your system. Okay, so now that we've done that, I'm going to run Rails S, and that is a great feature that we just added, and we were able to do it very quickly. Now, 2 more things I want to do. I just want to quickly, when we actually edit this post, it shows twice. It says post successfully updated twice, so we're just going to get rid of one of them. So let's go to the show page, and inside here, we're going to get rid of the notice because we do not need that. So if we refresh, then we update the post again. If I just change this to the first action text post, and then I update the post, it's actually going to only say this once, so that's perfect. And then we can actually add multiple images in here, which is very good. So I'm not going to add the same one twice. So we can add multiple images, which is really, really cool. Update post. And as you can see, our multiple images are now there with their names and their details attached. Now, something else that we need to do is actually attach the user ID in this form. So let's go ahead and do that because we want to be able to do user.posts, right? And we're saying post, but really it's user.tweets. So we want to attach the user ID in this form. That way we can track the users. So go to the posts and then _form. And inside of here, we have got a number field user ID. Okay, and so we want to actually add in the value for the user ID. So let's go ahead and do that. We're first going to get rid of this label because we do not need that. And then above here, we're going to say if current_user. So if the user is signed in, we're going to say value current_user.id. And then we're also going to say style. Well, we'll just leave it at that for now. So as you can see, it has the current user ID there, which is perfect. And because we know that now, we'll be able to track the current user's post. So we're going to say we're going to say style display none. That way, we don't want to see that because we don't need to see that. So perfect. Now we can update the post, and that is action text successfully in our application. I'm just going to get rid of that flash message again. So go to the index page, and at the top, get rid of the notice. Just quickly, we're going to get rid of this user ID. Go to VS Code, and inside here, go app views post_post, and get rid of this user ID. We don't need to display that for everyone to see. Now, if I create a new post and I say this is a good post, then I attach an image. So create post. I want people to be able to comment on this post. I want to add comments, real-time comments to this post so that everyone can comment their opinions on the post, right? Just like Twitter. Only that these comments are going to be dynamic such that everyone will be able to see them without refreshing their browser. So to go ahead and get started, we're going to open up the terminal, stop the server, clear, and then inside of here, we're going to say Rails G resource, which is something we haven't seen before, but it's lighter than a scaffold, but it still has some more stuff to it. And Rails G resource, and we're going to call it comment. Then we're going to say post : references and user : references. And then we're also going to say content text. Hit enter on that command and it's going to create the resource. Then do Rails db migrate. Now run the command Rails S once again. Okay, so if we just look at what that resource actually did, what that command actually did, it created the comments folder, it created a controller called comment, and it created a model, and most importantly, it created a root. So let's go to the routes.rb file, and then the routes.rb file is in config routes.rb, and inside here, we're just going to nest this resources comments under posts, because it's going to go posts /to/comments, right? So we're going to go do end, and then we're going to drag this comments in here. Next, we're going to go to the comments controller. And inside of here, we're going to have to add some methods to actually create the comment and to set the comment params. So let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing we're going to do is actually set the comment params. So we're going to do def comment underscore params and then end, because all methods end with an end. And so we're going to do params.require comment, because that's how it always starts out. And then .permit content. And we're also going to permit the user underscore ID. This is important so we know which user actually posted which comment. Then we're going to do def create, because we want to actually create the comment. And we're going to do @post is equal to post.find params post underscore ID. This is just going to find the post via an ID that we're going to pass in the form. And then we're going to say @post.comments.create. And then we're going to pass in comment underscore params, because we want to create it due to the comment params. And we're going to do .merge. And then we're going to say user is the current underscore user. Then after we do that, we're just going to redirect to @post. So that's it for the comments controller. Now we're going to go to the models. So go to the models folder, and inside of here, we're going to go to the post folder file. And inside of here at the top, we're going to say has underscore many. We're going to say comments. And while we're here, we're just going to say belongs underscore to user. And then we're going to go to the user.rb file, and we're going to say has underscore many comments. And we're also, while we're here, we're just going to say has underscore many posts. And then in the comment.rb file, it already says belongs to post and belongs to user, which is perfect. Now the next thing that we're going to do is create 3 views. So the first one is called underscore comment.html.erb. So go to the comments folder, right click, hit new file, and do underscore comment.html.erb. Then create another file, and we're going to call it underscore comments with an S at the end, .html.erb. And then create another file, and we're going to call it underscore new.html.erb. This one is going to be the form. This one is going to be the one that, so the underscore comments is going to be the one that renders all of the comments. And this file is going to display the specific comment. So in this one, what we're going to do is we're going to create a div, and we're going to say ID, and the ID is going to be equal to the DOM. So DOM underscore ID of the comment, and then wrap that in quotes. And then we're going to say /div. And then inside of here, we're going to have the actual comment content. So comment.content. And then we are going to say underscore time underscore tag comment.updated underscore at. So this will tell us when the comment was actually updated at or created. Then after that, we're going to go to the underscore comments. And inside of here, we're going to say h2 comments. And then after that, make sure to have a closing greater than sign there. And we're going to say div ID is equal to comments. And then we're going to render. So render post.comments, because we want to render the actual comments that are to do with that post. And then we're going to say /div. That's the end for this div. And then in this folder, we're also going to render the actual form. So do render comments /new. And then we're going to pass in the post. So post is the post. And then in the form, itself, or the underscore new.html.erb, we're going to have a form. So form underscore with model. And then we're going to pass in the post and the comment.new. And then we're going to say do f. So do f is just passing in the variable. So end, because all forms end with an end. And then we're going to say your comment, and then br. And then we're going to say underscore f.text area, and we're going to say content size 20 by 5. Close that off, then do a br tag. And then we're going to say f.text field user underscore ID value is current underscore user.id, and the style will be display none. And at the end of that, we're going to say if current user, like this. Then finally, we're going to have an f.submit button and an end. Now let's go to the post show page. So go to the post show, and inside of here, we're going to have a render comments/comments, and then we're going to pass in the post. So comma post is equal to @post. So with all that coding done, if we actually refresh the page I'm getting a syntax error. I need to go back to the code because I made an error. So let me go back to new. And then inside of here, if I just make this full screen, this semicolon is supposed to be inside. So if I do that, it should be going away. All right. So now we actually have your comment, a comments form, and we just need to render this form.submit. Okay. So now let's see what happens if we actually try and create a comment. The first comment, create comment. And if we scroll down, as you can see, it says the first comment, December 29th, 2024, 2022-19. I'm recording a bit late. But anyway, the comment system is working. And if I create another one, this is the second comment, we can see that it's definitely working. Now, the only problem I have with this is that it's not real time. And the good news is to fix that, it's actually really simple. So I'm just going to demonstrate that it's not real time by opening up another browser, because this is how you do it. Go to the same URL. And then if we go and create another comment on the left, we should have it creating another comment on the right. Let's see. Create post, create comment. It created on the left, but on the right, nothing happened, right? But if I refresh, it's there. So we're going to make it so that it automatically shows up without refreshing. And the good news is to do that, it's actually really simple. Go to the posts show page. And then at the top of this page, we're going to do turbo underscore, if I just get my mouse out of the way, turbo underscore stream underscore 4. And then we're going to say, turbo underscore stream underscore from at post. And then we're going to go to the comment model. So go to models, comment model. And inside of here, we're going to say broadcasts underscore 2. And then we're going to pass in post. And that should be it. So with those 2 lines of code, we should have our real-time features enabled, and it should actually be working. So if I save and refresh, and then I open up Edge again, navigate to the same place. Now, if I add a comment, and I say bad post, it should be real-time, and hopefully it will show up on the right and the left at the same time. And as you can see, it has worked. It showed up on the both sides of the screen at the same time, which is great, which means we have real-time comments on our page, in our application. Okay, so now that that is complete and we have real-time comments, we're actually going to make it so that we have the username of the user show up here in the post, as well as the time it was posted and more stuff like that. So let's go ahead and get cracking on that. Okay, so guys, the next step on the agenda is to actually make sure that we can view the user's username who actually posted the post and to view when it was created. And we're also going to be adding a like button. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is create a navbar for simpler navigation. So go to app, views, layouts, and inside of here we already have a navbar, but I'm just going to make it a little bit better. So let's go ahead and wrap it in a div, and then let's create another link. So just here we're going to say link underscore 2, and then we're going to do home, and then inside of here we'll just do root underscore path. That should be good. So now we've got that, and then we're just going to also bump up the size of these actual links themselves. So we're going to go and wrap them all in a H2. So you want your H2 here and your H2 at the end of all the links, and then that's it. So now that we've done that, we've kind of got some better navigation going. And so if we go to the posts, we're actually going to make it so that when we sign in, so I'm just going to sign in right now. So sign in with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, log in. And then I want to make a edit user registration link. So let's go ahead and do that. So go to VS Code, and then we're going to create a new link. And when we're logged in, we're going to create a new link, and we're going to say edit user. And so inside of here, we're just going to say the path, we're going to change it. We're going to do edit user underscore registration underscore path. Now, how do I know that that's the place we want to go to? Well, it's because when we go to the terminal, if I stop the server and then clear and then run Rails routes in here, if we actually look at these routes that are available to us, as you can see, there's one called devise edit user registration down here, and it's a GET request, and so that's how I know that that's the one we need to go to. Let's go back to VS Code, and then where it says edit user, we're going to get rid of this data turbo method delete. We don't need that on this one. And then instead of edit user, we're actually going to change it to account, and that should be good. If we refresh now, I just need to restart the server. So run Rails S, and then you go back to the browser, and as you can see, now if we go to account, we're actually able to see our account, and we can change our details if we want to. So now that we've done that, I want to add a username field to the user. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go to the terminal, I'm going to run clear, and then we're going to have to create a migration to add an attribute to the user table. So what we want is, if we go to DB schema, I'm just doing this to show you, don't have to copy me. If we go to DB schema in the users table, if I just find it in the users table right here, this one, we want to add a username attribute or column here. That way we're going to be able to store the username of the user, and that way we'll be able to actually display it as the post's user. So let's go ahead and do that. So go to the terminal, and then inside of the terminal, we're going to do Rails G migration add username to users. Again, make sure your migration command is exactly like mine, and then we're going to do username is going to be, actually I think it has to be like this, user underscore name is going to be a string. So hit enter on that command and that should do the job. Let's just go to the migration to make sure. So go to migrate and then the newest migration. As you can see, it wants to add a column to the users table. The column name is going to be username and it's going to be of type string. So that's perfect. String just means like a word that also includes different characters and letters and numbers. So then we're going to run Rails DB migrate. So run Rails DB migrate, and then we're going to go to the schema.rb, make sure that's done. And as you can see now we have a column called username, so that's perfect. And then we're going to run Rails S once again. So now that we've done that, we're going to go and generate, actually no, we have to stop the server. So the next command that we need to run is Rails G devise controllers. And then the controllers are going to be users. So hit enter on that command and that's going to create all the controllers. And then we're going to go and actually run the server now because we can do that. And it says here, some setup you must do manually if you haven't yet. Ensure you have overridden routes for generated controllers in your routes.rb. For example, rails.application.routes.do. So we're going to need to do this because we're going to need to actually make it so that people can sign up with their username. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go and copy this and put it and go to the routes. So go to routes.rb and then inside of here where it says devise for users, we're going to get rid of that and we're going to add devise for users, controllers, sessions, and then we're going to copy this and we're going to make it registrations as well. So registrations and then we're going to users/registrations. So this is just making devise actually use the controllers in the app, controllers, users, and then all of these controllers. So for registrations, we're going to use the registrations, and for sessions, we're going to use the sessions. But because we haven't specified for the other ones, it's actually not going to use this one. It's just going to take in the default one into account. So now that we've done that, we're going to go to the registrations controller. Inside here, we're going to uncomment this one and uncomment this one. What these do is this one configures the signup params to actually allow new parameters instead of the email and password, as well as the email and password to be in the devise account. And this one does the same, but for updating the account. Then we're going to scroll down and we're going to go to this one, which we're going to uncomment by getting rid of the hashtags. And inside of here, we're just going to, instead of attribute, we're going to say user underscore name. What this is going to do is permit the username to be signed up with. And then we're going to do the same with updating so that when we want to edit our account, we can edit our username. So let's go ahead and do that. So username. And then if we go to sessions, we're also going to do it there. So before action, configure sign-in params. So we're going to do the same thing here so that we're able to sign in with a username. So do that. Then once you've that done, we're going to go to the views devise, and inside of here we're going to go to registrations new, and we're going to add a new field here. We're going to call it username, so we'll add that at the top. We're going to say user underscore name. It's going to be user underscore name. We'll change this to text field. You can get rid of that, and then we're also going to add the same thing in the sessions sign in page. So we're going to add the same thing here. So go to sessions new, and then inside of here as well. Now that we've done that, if we actually go and we go to, looks like I have a syntax error in my routes.rb, so go to routes.rb file, go to the routes, and then inside of here, we're going to add a comma after this one, and we should be good to go. Okay. And now if we go and sign out, and then we try and sign up, as you can see, there's a username field there. So we're going to add in my username and hopefully this is going to work. So I'm going to sign up with a new account and then sign up. And as you can see, I've signed up successfully, which is perfect. If I go to account, the username is not there, but if we go and add it now, so go to VS Code, and then inside of here, we're going to go to the passwords edit. And inside of here, we will add the same field. So we're going to add the username field. So go to passwords, which is in registrations edit. So go to registrations edit. And at the top here, we're going to add our username. As you can see, now we have our username there. And so if we want to edit our username, let's see if it's going to work. So I'm going to change it from that to that with the password. And then we're going to try update. And as you can see, it says your account has been successfully updated. Did it actually work? Yes, it actually did. So that's perfect. So now we've added the username into the application. And now we're going to be able to display it with the post. So that's perfect. So to display it with the post, we're going to go to the VS Code. And then inside of here, I'm going to go to the app views and then to the posts _post.html.erb. And inside of here, we're just going to start by doing post.user.user_name. And let's see if that's going to work. So it looks like this user doesn't actually, the user of this post doesn't have a username. So that's why it didn't work. So we're just going to delete this post if I can. And I'm getting this error, and that's because I'm trying to delete a post that has comments attached to it, and we need to actually update the delete action in our controller. So go to the post controller, inside of controllers, post controller, and go to the destroy method, which is down at the bottom. And then inside of here, above at post.destroy, we have to add at post.comments.destroy all, because we need to destroy the post comments before we actually destroy the post itself. So now if we do that, and then we try again to delete the post, we should actually be able to delete this post. And as you can see, the post is going to be deleted. Okay, so let's create a new post. So we're going to add, this is the first post, and we're going to add an image. This one will do fine. And then if we create the post, it actually has the name of the user there. So it actually does display the name of the user, which is perfect. We're going to put it above. So go to the posts underscore post.html.erb, and we're going to display the post username above this. And just clean this up while you're here, get rid of this. And then we're also going to add the time that it was actually created. So to do that, underneath, just underneath the username, we're going to add a time tag. So do time underscore tag, and then we're going to do post.updated at. So that should fix that. And so now we have the post showing with the username and when it was created and the title. So that's good. We go to home and we go to posts. That's the first post. And if we show this post, we're going to be able to actually comment on it. So that's good. I'm going to go to the show page of the posts, and we're going to put all of this actually underneath the comments. So put that underneath because we want to have the comments first. Okay, so that's looking a lot better. Okay, so perfect. We've added the username and we've added the time that it was created. The next thing that we're going to do is add a like button to the actual post itself. Okay, so the next thing on our to-do list is to add a dynamic like button. As you can see on the screen now, there's a like button. And if I like it, it adds or increments to the like counter. In this case, it decremented because I unliked it. If I add it, it makes it red and also adds 1 to the like counter. So we're just going to add this simple like button to our application. It works exactly the same way as Twitter. So let's get started. Okay, guys, the first thing that we're going to do is run a command to generate a resource for the likes. So stop the server and do clear, as we always do. And in this case, we're going to run a command called Rails g resource like. And then because it's a like, it's going to be attached to 2 other models. The first one is the user model because each user will have a liked post. So the user has many likes. This is called a bidirectional relationship because the user has many likes and the likes belong to the user. And then also the likes belong to the post and the post has many likes. So to do that, we're going to have to put in post references and user references. This essentially establishes that the user has many likes and the post has many likes, and that the like belongs to the post and that the like also belongs to the user. So let's hit enter on that command and then run Rails dbmigrate. Now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to run our server again with Rails s. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is go to config routes.rb, and inside of here, just like the comments, we're going to have to nest the likes inside of the posts. And that's because the likes belong to the posts. So take this resources likes and put it inside the posts resources inside of the do block. This is called a do block. And so just like the comments, we're going to go posts /1/likes if we were actually going to go to the likes link. Next, we're going to go to app controllers, and we've got a new controller here called the likes controller. And inside of here is where we're going to do the bulk of our work. We need to have 2 methods, one that creates a like and one that destroys a like, so that we can actually like and unlike a post. So let's go ahead and do that. We're first going to create the create method. So we're going to do def create and then end, and it's not going to be that complicated. We're going to do @post.likes.create, and then we're going to search for the user, and the user is going to be the current _ user, and then we're going to say render turbo _ stream, and we're going to say turbo stream.replace, and then we're going to say like section, and then we'll pass in the post ID, and then we're going to do partial. So the partial, and then we're going to say posts /like _ section, which is a partial that we have yet to create. And then we're going to do another comma, and we're going to say locals, and that's going to be post is @post, and that's because we have to pass the post variable for the partial to actually understand. Then we're going to copy this method again, and instead of post.likes.create, we're going to do post.likes.find _ by, and then we're going to do current user so that the current user only has 1 like, right? And then we will say and.destroy. So that's going to destroy the likes. And we can leave this exactly the same. Now this @post variable, it isn't coming from the sky, we have to actually define it. So at the top we're going to do before _ action, and we're going to call it set post. This is the same as if we go to the post controller, it's the same way they do it there. So it says before action set post, and if we actually look at the set post, it's just finding the post via a param called ID. So let's just copy that, and that's going to work for our likes inside of the action. So we're going to do, I might just copy the whole actually no, it's fine. So def set _ post, and then end, and then copy that in there. @post is equal to post.find params.expect ID. That should be all working, and that's it for the likes controller. I might have forgot to mention this, but make sure to add method post outside of this. So make sure to have the method post outside of that. Next, we're going to search up font awesome CDN because we need that for the actual like button itself, the heart icon. So let's go ahead and search up font awesome, the CDN, and we should get the CDN. So we're going to copy and paste this. Then we're going to go to the posts view. So go to views, posts, and then show. And we're going to copy this at the top of the page. So do link, and then we're going to do href, just means the location. Then copy that in there, and then we're going to say rel is equal to style sheet, so that we know that it's a style sheet. Now that we've done that, we have access to everything on Font Awesome, which has like icons, which is really useful. And now we're actually going to write our like section. So we're going to do turbo frame, and then the ID is going to be equal to the inside of here. We're going to say like underscore section, and then we're going to pass in the Ruby of at post.id because we want it to be unique. And then inside of here, we're going to say render partial, and we're going to say like section, like underscore section, like underscore section. And we also need to pass in the post variable. So let's pass in the post variable. Post is equal to at post. And then we're going to write turbo frame to end off that turbo frame tag, because it's just a HTML tag. You can also get it in Rails, but we're just using the HTML to simplify things. Now we're just going to delete this likes folder. We don't actually need that because there's nothing in there. And now we're actually going to create a new partial called underscore like underscore section.html.erb in the post folder. You have to start every partial with an underscore. That's why we did it that. And inside of here, we're going to actually add another turbo frame. So I'm just going to go back to the show page, copy and paste this turbo frame, and then put it inside of the like section. And then we'll also have the ending tag, turbo frame. And then inside of here, we're going to create an if statement. So we're going to do if at post.likes.exist. Then we're going to pass in the user, current underscore user. Then we're going to show an unlike button. And if not, then we're going to show a like button. So do end, else, and end. So inside of the first one for the unlike button, we're going to do button underscore to post underscore like underscore path. Then we're going to pass in the at post variable. And then we're going to do at post.likes.find underscore by. User is going to be the current underscore user. And the method is going to be delete. Then we'll just create a do block. And then inside of here, we're going to add an icon. So have an ed tag there. And so the icon is going to be I and then class. And we're going to say fas fa heart. And then we're going to say style. And then it's going to be color is red. And then we're going to have that. And then for the actual like button, we're just going to copy and paste this in there. But instead of the method delete, we're going to have the method post. And actually make sure to have a colon before delete and post like that. And then we're also going to get rid of the this part, so we don't need that. And then the color of the icon is going to be gray. And then we also need to add another end tag too. I'm just going to fix up this formatting a little bit. And then just before the end, we're going to add a div. And inside of this div is going to be the actual post like count. So we're going to do a Ruby sign and then at post.likes.count. Simple. Okay, so now that we've completed our controller, we've completed the view, we've completed the show page, and we've completed the partial. We've also done the roots. This should all work, and the like button should be working. So let's test our solution. Okay, so I'm on the web page now, and I'm just going to sign in. Okay, now that I'm signed in, I'm actually going to create a new post. So I'm going to click create post. So I click create post, and I'm getting this error undefined method likes for an instance of post. Let's go and see our post model to see if the connections are actually there. Go to post.rb, and as you can see, it says has many comments, but it does not say has many likes. So inside of here, we're going to say has many and then likes, and hopefully that fixes our issue. We're also going to do the same thing for the actual user. So the user is going to have many likes too. So refresh, and as you can see, it says the post was successfully created. So let's go and see. And so if you go to posts, as you can see, now there's a new post. If we actually go and show this post, we're getting an error. It says undefined method exists for an instance of. If we go to VS Code, it looks like I'm just forgetting the question mark. So let's go to that place. It should be in here. And we're just going to add a question mark at the end of exists. And that should fix that issue. And now we're getting another error, and it says undefined method like, and we need to make that likes. I'm getting a routing error. We're going to post/1/like/1 method post. Looks like the actual route is wrong in the link itself. So I'm just going to change this to likes. So post likes path. And now if we go back to the post, we should be able to like it with ease. Now we're getting another error just full of errors. And we're saying param is missing, or the value is empty, or invalid ID. So we're just going to go to the post, to that likes controller. And so at the bottom here in the set post method, instead of saying params.expect, we're just going to pass in params. And then inside of here, we're going to pass in post_ID. Because if we actually go to the like section, we are passing the post. And so that means that we're also passing the post ID and that way we can find the post via the post ID instead of the ID of the post, if you get that. So we're going to refresh and hopefully we'll be able to like the thing now. And I'm getting yet another error. It says wrong number of arguments. It looks like I'm forgetting the square brackets there. So I'm just going to go to VS Code and then go to likes controller. And then inside of here, I'll add the square brackets. So just wrap the post ID in square brackets instead of parentheses, and then we should be good to go. So I'm going to try one more time. Somehow nothing is happening when I click the button. We need to go to VS Code and then we need to make sure that this post ID here is actually being recognized. So make sure to add a hashtag before there to make it so that it actually shows up. Now if we try again, and I just realized we have two create methods, so we're going to make one of them a destroy method. So do def destroy, and then now if we go back, it's actually working. And so yeah, this is the like counter using turbo frames and turbo stream. The likes are not real time, however, they are updating for the actual user. Just to give you an overview of what's happening, if we go to the show page, this is a turbo frame, which is like a marker, and this is a partial rendering the like section. So if we go to the like section, let's say we actually like, then we press this button, we go to the post underscore likes underscore path, and we pass in the post variable. Then let's follow that, and let's go to the likes controller, and inside of here, we're actually creating a like for that post and for that user. And then with this line of code, with this render turbo stream, we are updating the original turbo frame, this one here, and we are updating it with the like section. That way the like counter updates because this is essentially refreshing with the new information because we're also passing in the post variable. And so that's why it works and that's why it's dynamic. Okay, so our application is looking good. We've got a like counter. We've got real-time comments which work real time and they work very well. We've got images in our application. We've got usernames. We've got user authentication. It's really going well. Right guys, so we've come to the end of developing our application and now it is actually time to deploy it. As you can see on the screen right now, I'm on a domain name which is online. It won't be by the time you're watching this video, but I have successfully deployed the application and I'm going to show you how to do this. We're going to do this using a new Rails 8 tool called Kamal. Kamal makes it easy to deploy web apps anywhere. We're going to be using this in conjunction with Docker and also with Namecheap and also with Digitalocean. So these are the 4 different tools that we're going to be using to actually get our app online and running. I'm going to use a domain name which I've already used, but you're not going to have to buy one because we'll just be able to enter in the IP address of the app. Docker is free, Kamal is free. However, on DigitalOcean, we're using a droplet and you can get a small droplet for as little as $6 a month. So without further ado, let's get started and deploy our app online so everybody can see it. Okay guys, so I'm in our application and the first thing that we're going to do is search up deploy.yaml. This is a file that is going to be used by Kamal, and this file we have to edit quite a lot. Please note that deploying your application is, in my opinion, the most complicated part of the development process. It's more complicated than actually developing the app, and I have spent at least 5 hours today just working out all the kinks, solving at least 15 different errors. There is just an awful amount that can go wrong, mainly because no app is the same. So even though this tutorial is the best that I can produce and I've got all the steps laid down, even with all that, it's programming and you might still have some difficulty, although I will do my best to make sure you don't. Okay, so at the top here, our name of our application, used to uniquely configured containers, service Twitter clone. So I'm just going to call this, instead of Twitter clone, I'm going to call it something different. And I'm going to call it Treehouse app. And then I'm going to go and enter the same thing after this one, Treehouse app. This first bit here is the Docker Hub username. So this is what we talked about earlier. You're going to have to go onto Docker Hub, so Docker Hub, and you're going to have to create an account here. If you're not familiar with Docker, it's a platform that's extremely popular. It essentially makes it so that an application on macOS that was developed on macOS can be easily ported to Windows or Linux, and that's what it does. Now on here, you're going to have to create an account, and then the username of your account, in my case the username is Maliki Rails, that's going to be your first part here. So if we go here, I'm going to enter in Maliki Rails. So again, your username of your Docker Hub account is going to be the first part here in image. Then the name of the app that you want is going to be after that. The servers we want to deploy to. Here's the IP address of the actual server. This is quite important that you don't leak it to anyone. And we're going to have to change this. So we're going to have to go into DigitalOcean and create a new droplet. And then that way we'll get the IP address of the droplet and then deploy to that droplet. So we're going to have to go into DigitalOcean now and create a new droplet. So go into Brave or go into your browser and then we're going to go into DigitalOcean. If you have not got a DigitalOcean account, go to digitalocean.com or whatever and then go there and make an account. So just click sign up. It's fairly simple, just email, password, maybe a name. I already have my account, and so the first thing that we're going to do is hit create and then droplet. I'm creating the droplet in my first project. You might have to create a project before you can create a droplet, so just hit create project. Okay, so here on this create droplet page, it says that droplets are virtual machines that anyone can set up in seconds. You can use droplets either standalone or as part of a larger cloud-based infrastructure. And so then it says choose region. Now, it's very simple. You want to choose the region that is closest to where you are or to where your users are. In my case, my app is not for any other people, it's just for me because I want to demonstrate how to deploy with Kamal. So I'm going to choose London as that is the closest one to me. Now that I have selected London because it's the closest one to me, so it'll be the fastest to load, we're going to scroll down and then we're going to scroll down all the way to choose an image. And we can choose the OS and we're going to choose Ubuntu because that's the one we're running in development. So it's going to be stable and the same, consistent. And we're going to choose version 2022.04. The reason that I'm choosing that version is because that's the same one that I have in development. If the one you have in development is a different one, then I would personally choose the same one that you're using in development to keep things consistent across the board. Then we're going to scroll down and we're going to select the basic plan as that's all I need for this demonstration. We're going to click regular and then we're going to go to this $6 per month package. It gives you one CPU, 25 gigabytes of SSD storage and 1000 gigabytes of transfer. That's going to be more than enough for this demonstration. However, one useful feature of DigitalOcean is that you can easily just ramp up how much resources you need to use. And it actually shows you how much it's using per hour, which is about 1 cent per hour right now. It's not going to charge you the $6 up front. It literally bills per hour, so that's really useful because I've created hundreds of droplets in the past few hours. And if they charge $6 upfront each time, I would lose some money, but they charge per hour, so it's better. Next, we're going to scroll down, and here we see the option to add volume. We don't need to do that, but if you needed more volume, as in more disk space, then you could easily do that. And it says no manual setup here, but there is actually a little bit of setup in VS Code. But yeah, you can easily add more disk storage if you need it. And you might need that if your application becomes extra large, and it would be cheaper than buying a higher tier of droplet over here. Now here it says choose authentication method, which is quite important. We're going to be using SSH key, and we're going to create a new SSH key. This is Twitter clone copy is one that I created previously. So we're going to click on new SSH key, and then inside of here, we're going to have to generate an SSH key. So we're going to go and follow the steps here. So SSH keys, create a new key pair if needed. So we're going to have to create a new key pair. So do SSH keygen inside your terminal, ideally in the place your app is. So hit SSH keygen, enter a file in which to save the key. You can just hit enter, and then it says already exists. So that's fine. We're not going to overwrite it, but for you, it won't say already exists. So that's okay. It says you'll be asked to create and confirm a passphrase for the key, so that you can just enter no passphrase. So you can just leave it empty, so enter and then hit enter again. And then after that, we're just going to do cat, if I show you. So cat and then // id or sa.pub. What this does is it just copy the contents of this into the terminal. So if I hit enter, it shows the contents of that file. And then what we need to do is actually copy the contents and then copy all of the contents and then put it in here. And then the name, we can just call it treehouse SSH. So now that I've copied all of the contents and put it in there, we're going to add SSH, and that is done. Now for me, because I use the same SSH, it's not going to show up, but for you, it's going to be a new SSH, so that should be done now. So that should be everything that we need in here. I'm just going to click tick on this one because it says add improved metrics monitoring and alerting, free, may as well, don't see why not. And we could add a worry-free managed database, but we don't need to do that right now. We would do that if we wanted a more scalable application, but for this demonstration, it's not necessary. So hit create droplet. Now we're just going to wait for it to be created. It should take about 2 minutes. Once it is created, we're going to copy the IP address and paste it into VS Code. Okay, so now that our droplet is active and it says droplet has been created, we are going to copy the IP address, which is the one up here, IPv4. We're going to copy that, and then we're going to go into VS Code, into the app, and we're going to paste it in servers web. So now we have that. So that's our DigitalOcean droplet IP address. Okay, next part is proxy. And this is the domain name that we want to use. So in my case, I'm going to use an actual domain name. And the domain name that I'm going to use is called app.clipsync.com. Now, if you don't have your own domain name, you can either purchase one or you can just not use a domain name. If you're not going to use a domain name, you're going to have to enter your IP address in the browser, which is okay. And for that, you're just going to have to get rid of the host. So if you're not using a domain name, get rid of the host and you don't need to enter that value. But if you are using a domain name, you should have app.yourdomainname.com or whatever the end of your domain name is. Now it's up to you if you want to say app.clipsync.com or just clipsync.com. In fact, I will change mine to just clipsync.com as that's better. Next up is registry, and it says username, your user. And so inside of here, it's exactly the same as up here, the username of your Docker Hub account. So we're just going to enter Malachi Rails because that is the username of my Docker Hub account. If I just go and double check that, if I go and double check on here, if I go click this, it says Malachi Rails there. So we know that my username is Malachi Rails. The next part, it says password, Kamal registry password. Now this part is quite special because this is just a variable and you set this variable somewhere else. It's the same as Rails master key. So if we go to Kamal secrets, we're supposed to set this Kamal registry password and Rails master key inside of here. In fact, we have to set it inside of here. We don't have any other choice. So to get this Kamal registry password, what that actually means is how we're going to access our Docker Hub account. So what we're going to have to do is create a personal access token to our Docker Hub account and enter it as the Kamal registry password. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go into my Docker Hub account and then I'm going to click on account settings. Okay, so now that I'm in the account settings of my account, we're going to scroll down to the bottom and it says personal access tokens. We're going to click on that link and then inside of here, we're going to create a new token. So do generate new token and I'm going to call it treehouse token. Now, extremely important that you say read, write, and delete for these access permissions. I ran into an error where I was just keeping as public read only, and I kept getting an error saying you don't have the permissions unauthorized, and so we need to make sure that it's at least read and write, and I'm going to put read, write, delete just to be safe. I'm going to call it treehouse token just to describe it. It's not actually important. We don't need the description, but I'm going to call it treehouse token anyway. So hit generate on that key. And then now it says use this token as a password when you sign in from this Docker CLI client. Now for now, I'm going to copy this token and I'm going to VS Code and I'm going to paste it in here. Now this is something that is highly frowned upon. Pasting your password in here is terrible. As you can see right here, it says do not enter raw credentials here. And this is because this file actually should be safe. And if you push this file to say somewhere like GitHub, then someone will have access to all your secrets and then they'll be able to get into your application and then potentially harm it. If you want to know how to hide your secret stuff, then you can go onto the Kamal website and this is the page, we'll link it in the description. And inside of here, it says exactly how to use it using 1Password and different password managers. And this is how you can hide those details and not permit them to GitHub. Doing git ignore won't actually work for this because it's in the secrets, but I'm going to do a terrible thing and leave it as it is. And that's because I don't need to secure my details because I'm going to delete this app and delete these credentials soon after making this video. Now for the Rails master key, we're also going to have to get that. So go and find your master key and that should just be in config-master key. So we're going to go to config and then master.key. Copy and paste this and go into secrets and then we're going to copy and paste it in here. Again, I just want to state one more time, this is really bad practice, but I digress. As long as no one else can see these credentials, as in you don't post it on GitHub or you make your GitHub repository private, I believe it to be okay. Okay, so now that we've done all that, we have set the Kamal registry password, we've set the Rails master key, both in secrets. Everything is done in this file and it's going well. So now that everything is done in this file, we're going to have to actually install Docker. Now installing Docker can be a difficult process, so I'm going to leave the link to the Docker website in the description, and it has the documentation on how to install it on every single different operating system you can possibly have. I'm going to show you how to do it on Ubuntu though. So it says uninstall old versions. Before you can install Docker Engine, you need to uninstall any conflicting packages. And that's because our Linux distribution may provide unofficial Docker packages, which may conflict with the official packages provided by Docker. So we have to uninstall these before officially installing or installing the official Docker engine. So run this command here. So run the following command to uninstall all conflicting packages. I'm going to hit enter on that command, then enter my password. Then I'm going to go down to installation methods and just follow them. So it says you can install it in different ways, and I'm going to install it using the apt repository. So I'm simply just going to copy and paste this whole thing, and we're going to copy and paste it in there, and that should install Docker. Now I'm going to actually install Docker using this command. So it's sudo apt get install Docker and some other packages. So hit enter on that command, and as you can see, it's done. And then we're going to verify that your installation was successful by running this command. And there it says, this message shows that your installation appears to be working correctly. So far in the video, we've successfully installed Docker and we've successfully generated our personal access token as well as the Digitalocean droplet. We've also changed our deploy.yaml file and we've also changed our secrets file. So we're nearly done. The next thing that we have to do is go to Namecheap and point our domain name to this actual thing. So we're going to go to Namecheap. So I'm going to go to Namecheap and I'm already here. And then I'm going to go to clipsync.com, which is the domain that I'm using. I'm going to go to advanced DNS. And then in advanced DNS, we're going to create a new record. So I'm going to delete the current record and we're going to create a new one. So click on add new record, then it's going to be an A record. The host is just going to be @ and then the IP address is going to be from DigitalOcean, the droplet IP address IPv4. Copy and paste that in there and then hit the tick. Okay, so now that that is done in Namecheap, we're going to go back to VS Code and just make sure that everything is working and ready to deploy. So I'm going to go over this deploy.yaml again, treehouse app. Yeah, that looks good. This one and this one have to be the same. That's the IP address. SSL is true, yeah. Okay, and the app is looking pretty good and I think it is ready to deploy. We have Docker installed, we've got the deploy.yaml finished, we've got the secrets done, we've got the Namecheap ready and looking for this server to be active. And so I think we're ready. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to run the command called Kamal setup. So let's go ahead and run this command and let's see if it works. So I'm just on the Kamal website and it gives you an overview of all of the commands in Kamal. And for Kamal setup, it says that this command sets up all the accessories, pushes the env file, and deploys the app to server. Okay, so I just got an error and it says failed to validate clone git exit status 32768. Now I'm not sure why we get this error, but I do know how to solve it. So we're going to go ahead and run git add dot git commit -m initial commit. And then what we actually have to do is deploy our project to GitHub. So I'm going to go to github.com and then I'm going to go and create a new repository. And then inside of here, I'm just going to say treehouse app and I'm going to make it private to make sure that nobody can see all my secret stuff. And we're going to hit create repository. And then we're just going to copy and paste these two commands at the bottom. So those two, and then we're going to actually push. And now if we run Kamal setup again, we should not get all these errors, or that one error, the git error. And it looks to be working now. Now I understand that Docker can be hard to work with, Kamal can be hard to work with, and that took me about 6 hours today just working all of this out by myself. And so I have a file, a Notion file, where I documented all the errors that I ran into and how I solved them. So I'm going to leave this in the description and hopefully it will help you. And I'm also going to leave in the description another file called Pushing to DigitalOcean with Kamal and Docker Notes. I'm yet to write this out, so I'm going to do that after this video. But yeah, hopefully this really helps you. But hopefully this helps you when deploying with Kamal to DigitalOcean. So if we go back to our terminal, as you can see, it is deploying. It's still deploying, still deploying. It looks like it's working. All this red is actually a good thing, even though it's red. And as you can see, it says cached, and that's because I've run this command before. The first time you run it, it's going to take a lot longer than the second time, because the second time you will have cached a lot of the items, and so it won't take as long because it doesn't have to upload as much stuff. Okay, and so I got an error, and it says exception while executing Docker exit status 1, Docker std out, nothing written. So when it says nothing written, that means we had trouble connecting to Docker. And so what I'm going to do is check my deploy YAML file. And now I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that we're going to change the service name to Twitter clone, and then that should actually change it and make it work. I believe that actually has to be the name of your application, not something you can set on your own. So because it says Twitter clone up here, it has to say Twitter clone there because that's the name of our actual application. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go to the terminal and I'm going to hit clear. Then I'm going to run git add dot git commit -m and I'm going to say changed deploy.yaml to Twitter clone. And then we're going to say end quote and git push. And then now if we run Kamal setup again, hopefully it's going to work. I got the same error again. Now I got this error docker std out, nothing written again. So I'm going to try to log in. So I'm going to say docker login. It says login succeeded. And I believe the issue was that the treehouse token was not actually created yet. I was still on the page where I was going to create it. I pressed create, but then I didn't say back to personal access tokens. So you have to say back to, and then it actually says create. So let's see if that works now. We're going to try Kamal setup and hopefully it works now. As I said, there's just a million things that can go wrong with developing. And that's why they actually made Kamal, to make it easier. And I do believe that they have achieved that, but it is still a hassle. Okay guys, so I've actually got notes on this error, and it says that to fix it, I have to change from Postgresql to SQLite. So let's go ahead and do that. So to do that, we're going to go to the terminal and we're going to do Rails DB system : change. And then we're going to say 2, and then we're going to say SQLite 3. Now if we enter in that command, that's going to say config.database.yaml. We're going to say yes. And then we're also going to bundle install to install the new SQLite. And then now that we've done that, we're going to actually run git add dot git commit-m, change to SQLite 3, git push, and now we're going to push, and then let's run Kamal setup again and give it another go. Fingers crossed, this is the time that it actually works. It should be if my notes are anything to go by. And this time it actually worked. It says finished all in 34 seconds. So changing from PostgreSQL to SQLite actually worked. And I believe that's because in order to have PostgreSQL actually work, you need to create a managed database with PostgreSQL. Now, normally I'd be against using SQLite 3 in production, but I think in this scenario, it's perfectly fine because I'm not going to have that many users on my app, am I? And even if I did, I could bump up my droplet to give it more resources. So now with everything done, our app being uploaded, everything should be working. And if we go to clipsync.com, if we give it a few minutes, it should load with the new website. Okay guys, it's like 4 minutes later and I'm able to view the website on mobile and it works perfectly, but I can't view it on my browser and my PC yet. So we're going to go to CMD and we're actually going to clear the DNS cache of the computer. So to do that, we're going to run ipconfig/flush DNS and hopefully that works. And as you can see, it says successfully flush the DNA resolver cache. Hopefully that does something. Just to try and speed up the process because it's worked for me before, I'm going to go ahead and add ns1.digitalocean.com as one of the name servers for my Namecheap. So I'm going to go to Namecheap and then go to the domain. And inside of here, I'm going to select custom DNS. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy these into custom DNS. And hopefully that makes it actually load faster. Add name server. Then I'm going to go ahead and press tick. It says DNS server update may take up to 48 hours to take effect. So this really is kind of a waiting game. This is the one thing I don't like about domains. I'm not 100% sure if it's working, but I'm sure I've done everything right. So hopefully it does work. Okay guys, I'm going to go ahead and restart my computer and see if that helps. Alright guys, so it's about 10 minutes later and I've just restarted my PC and now the website is actually finally loaded and it looks like we've successfully uploaded our project to clipsync.com or the domain that we've been to. So I'm going to go ahead and sign up and see if everything is working. So I'll just sign up with a new email, 123456. 123456, sign up, and as you can see it says welcome, you've signed up successfully. Then I'll create a new post and see what happens. So I'm going to create a new post, first post on the website, and then we're going to put that in bold and italics and then connect an image, and then we'll say TT, and then if we do create post, as you can see it says the post was successfully created, and we can like the post and we can unlike it, and then we can also add a real-time comments, so hello. And then if I open my other browser, so I'll just do another browser, put that over there, put this one over here. If I hit create comment, it should appear on the right. And as you can see, it does in real time. So that's perfect. That means our action cable is working and that is great. So the website seems to be working and that means that we have successfully deployed with Kamal to DigitalOcean, and that is really awesome. So guys, I'd like to say thank you for following along in this course with me, and I'd like to show you my YouTube channel where you can find more of my content. On this channel, I have different Ruby on Rails videos, so if you'd like to go more in depth into the framework, I highly suggest you look at my channel. I also offer a one-on-one mentorship program which you can find on Patreon. There'll be a link to it in the description. And if you'd like to learn personally from me in calls, then you can look at this mentorship program and I'll give you help. Thank you guys for watching, and I'm sure we'll meet again.